Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the DVD Bunker. I know, 50, and I think this is your like 5th or 6th appearance now? Fourth.
Next time
Still,
you get the jacket.
Steve Martin's gonna come and welcome you into the Five Timers Club.
He keeps calling, like, is it time? Is it 5? No, Steve.
What's weird is like he keeps asking me to hold back his 5 episodes, but yet he's so into the Five Timers Club. If you're a regular viewer of the show, usually what we do is go through my DVD collection, looking at movies that I own but haven't watched in a long time and kind of forgotten, or maybe like trying to show undiscovered gems to people out in the universe. But today was something different. We've been doing a couple top 10 episodes, and we were bouncing around the idea of doing top 10 comic books. And I was like, man, the MCU could fill out a very solid portion of my top 10 comic book movies.
Almost all of it.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's some good ones, and there's some ones that I have a really nostalgic love for, but when you're thinking about actually, like, what's going to make your top 10, it was rough. Plus, how do you work the one per franchise rule? Is it, like, one of each franchise? Does the 3 Iron Man movies count, or is it all the MCU and you can only put one movie in?
That's tough to do, especially with some of those franchises. I mean,
right.
I would have to put all 3 of a certain type in there.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So, I thought, let's do something a little different. Maybe I do need to find a way to come up with one singular winner for the MCU, and a great way to do that is to do a tournament. So, I thought, King of the Ring style, there's 16 movies now with... that's right, King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
What reference? What stupid sports reference are you thinking?
Sweet 16 style?
No, baby.
Fuck that. No.
The King of the Ring.
I like it.
Spider-Man: Homecoming marks the 16th movie in the franchise, so it's a perfect time, perfect setup. So I thought we would go through here and try to determine the very best comic book movie. I forgot, I didn't introduce Matt and Justin. You guys remember Matt and Justin?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, they're here.
Yeah. Matt's here all the time. I'm here sometimes.
I definitely needed a third person to round this out and help break ties, and who better than a super nerd like Justin to help me out with that.
That's what I do.
So real quick, I'll tell you guys and people at home how I kind of set this up. I basically I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I should disclaimer, I know I've been on here and ranted about aggregate scoring before. Complained about how it's a stupid way to judge movies, and the Rotten Tomatoes score is meaningless, and just find critics that you agree with and like, and whose opinions represent yours. You know what I mean? No one's going to 100% have your same taste. Blah, 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 blah. But for the purposes, for the purposes of this show today, I thought I would take the Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score only. I didn't take audience score into account. They're too fickle. They put hateful, spiteful reviews. And not to say regular critics don't do that too, but hopefully less so.
Well, but, critics don't do it on everyday people either, so that's another thing.
Exactly. And then I also used the Metacritic score, which usually across the board was much lower. Metacritic, I think, uses a lot more like what you would consider conventional film critics, whereas Rotten Tomatoes has a ton of genre critics who are really into like the kind of minutia of specific, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books, horror. And, I guess Metacritic, I would say, is the more classic style of criticism. Right. And Rotten Tomatoes is kind of this last decade or so.
Goodbye version.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Rotten Tomatoes is like, here, it's either in or it's out. No middle ground. Ever. So, with that out of the way, you guys have any questions or anything?
Oh, let's get
it on.
Do it. Okay, so I have my rudimentary handwritten, hand-scrawled bracket here. We'll work off Matt. He'll put up a nice graphic. He'll give us something to work with. Or maybe just like he'll photocopy this thing when we're done. Either way, there'll be something for you to look at too. So let's start out, first round, the number 1 seed, let's just do it up against the number 16. Number 1, Iron Man, 2008's Iron Man. Coming in at the lowest ranked, number 16, Thor: The Dark World. Ooh. So, a lot of this first round might have what seems like squash matches here. So, I'm going to try to play a little devil's advocate. Number 16 ranked Thor: The Dark World. I don't think it's not that bad. It's fun. You know what I mean? It's got some fun to it. It's just, I get it's very like cookie cutter. There's nothing really special about it. But I think that they benefited from a lot of the world building that got done in Thor. You know, I like Thor, but I think unfortunately there's a lot to kind of set up in that world.
Well,
so.
you're talking about mythical gods and stuff, except for the real world. Yeah, it's tough.
So, you know, and I don't know. I guess the villain is weak. We're probably going to talk a lot about weak villains while we're doing Marvel movies because there's been very few that really stand up. What about you, Matt? What do you got to say about Thor: The Dark World? Anything?
Yeah, you know, I think Tom Hiddleston had a good performance. There was a memorable scene with Renee Russo's character where she fights a little bit. Her death scene was powerful at the end. I liked the way it ended. But, you know, it's going up against maybe a favorite to win the West and a favorite to win this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just beating around the bush here and we're like a little hand job for Thor: The Dark World.
Just
but
to say adios.
It's a gimme. Do we need to... Matt, which one would you think?
Yeah, you got to go with Iron Man on
and
this.
Justin?
I think it's a close call. No, it's Iron Man, yeah.
I'm going to vote for Thor just to throw it out.
You're both wrong.
You lose, mother.
Yeah. My show. I'm taking it over. All right, so we have a second round here, or not, sorry, second match. Captain America Winter Soldier, that's the number 7.
God,
that's the number 7. Number 7. I was like, that's shockingly low to me. Like I said,
Winter Soldier was number 7?
The Metacritic scores on these really, like, really shifted the balance
that makes
a lot.
Sense to me.
I know, like, super high. I would say it's probably the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes of that trilogy, even though I'm not 100%. I mean, it's up in the air which one you think is the best. But it's definitely, I think, the highest rated. But I was surprised how much Metacritic took some of these. That's why I was glad that I did that I factored that in. So number 7, Winter Soldier, going up against number 10, Ant-Man.
Well, you got to say, I'll start with Ant-Man. You know, it is maybe the funniest of all of them. I'll say that. Although Paul Rudd, maybe not the funniest character.
See, I would throw that in as a knock.
Yeah, as a knock, I'm kind of going back.
It's like he's the least funny character in his own movie, and he's the funniest actor in his movie. Nothing against Michael Pena, who I actually like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, you wasted Paul Rudd. Like, that's a big bummer for me in that one. I wasn't as high on Ant-Man as everybody else. A lot of people really loved it. I thought it was all right. Good origin, great effects. Like the set pieces were really good. Little over-cluttered with characters, like the whole subplot with the mom's boyfriend who's also the cop who's investigating him and all that. That was way, like, just about get rid of all that. And talk about a weak villain that goes crazy out of nowhere.
The Yellow Jacket,
like,
which wasn't even really Yellow Jacket, was one of the Hank Pyms.
Right.
I will say, like, when they casted Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, I hated the idea of having an elderly Hank Pym, but the idea that him and Wasp actually had a past and actually were superheroes, that helped it. And actually, I liked it. I liked what they did with it. I thought Paul Rudd was good. Like you said, wasn't the funniest guy, but he carried the movie well. But I mean, like you said, this is up against what I would say one of the best Marvel movies they've made.
It's ranked number 7 here. I would easily put it in my top 5 of the MCU, like personal top 5. Captain America: Winter Soldier. First of all, I think first of the Marvel movies to successfully like stay in that universe but feel like a different genre of movie.
It was Day of the Condor for
right. Feels like a real spy. You know, I think one of the few things that you can knock it is you can say the villain. I think Redford is great as Pierce and as the villain, but the fact that he wasn't revealed to be the Red Skull
that would have been
is just,
cool
I mean,
moment.
it's like, what a waste. Are you kidding me?
Cool.
Like, how did that not? And then you could be like, what? The Red Skull is still in the thing? Oh, man, it would have been so, like, it just really would have added, and I think it would have made it would have taken that great spy movie and given it that one little twinge of comic book movie that it really needed, like, really push it into that.
And I feel like, well, the first Avenger really set up Cap as a character. This really cemented his character 100%. I mean, from the get-go, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this. And I mean,
it's funny how 2 out of the 3 Captain America movies have him basically fighting against America.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing I hadn't really thought about before.
And I appreciate the fact that he didn't go Nomad on us either.
No,
he was Captain America, though.
That's going to be the beginning of Infinity War.
He's the dream. That's the point. But,
he is a dream boat.
But, I just, oh man, Captain America, there's not enough I can say about it. I mean,
that
Johansson was great in that one. I felt like they really fleshed her character out a lot more. She wasn't just eye candy.
Yeah, like because she had some witty one-liners and stuff in Avengers, but she got to basically play the co-lead of this movie.
Right.
Yeah. And Anthony Mackie's great too. Bringing
Introducing
the Falcon.
in,
absolutely.
Like little gags, like the list he was making of all the stuff he had to learn.
Very good
and
stuff,
like the movie he had to see, and
And like I said, the opening scene where he takes that boat, you could hang the whole thing on that opening scene, and it'd be hard to beat.
Oh yeah.
Anything that we're missing out on, Matt?
No, I'm with you. I'm trying to save it up all my Captain America Winter Soldier arguments, so when we have to maybe do some giant killing.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so let's go. Let's say I think I went Matt. What do you think now? Ant-Man. Again, I was in the minority. Most people have it much higher. Would say at 7 or at 10, it's way underrated. Most people I know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I would say it's overrated at 10, and I know.
Hot takes,
I like
guys.
it, and I liked Ant-Man. Actually, I liked it a lot more than I thought it would. But
I think we've had this conversation. The MCU is, like, as a franchise, is ridiculously strong overall. Mm-hmm. Like, the quality level is really, the bar is really very high. That's why I think you almost have to rank them only against themselves. Yeah. Take them as a separate thing and just talk about them in their alone. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Winter Soldier, easy.
Yeah, you too. Winter Soldier. I can't say it. Winter Soldier it is. Okay. So, next one. Now, this one is going to be a barn burner. Coming in at rank number 12, Avengers Age of Ultron.
Oh, so yeah, that's under. Yeah.
Coming in at number 5, Doctor Strange.
Number 5?
To me, these are like flipped. Like, this is like a complete opposite. If you told me that I had it written down wrong, I would believe you, but I got my calculations right here. Look at that shit. Scroll down.
Is there
math.
A cosine on
Don't worry about it. The point is, no, I get it. Age of Ultron, everybody felt like it couldn't live. First of all, I think it had the problem it couldn't live up to the hype. Avengers was like a world changer. It was like an atom bomb going off for comic book movies. It was like, it was like Marvel just whipped their dick out, laid it right on the table, and it was like, this is how it's gonna be from now on.
And DC shat their pants.
Right, absolutely. They still haven't stopped shitting the bed. They're still doing it. But I think that Age of Ultron, it's got some amazing stuff in it. There's a really excellent, and nobody ever talks about it, character arc for Captain America. Yeah. And I think maybe it's, people say that the whole Marvel universe is all Iron Man movies, but I think Captain America has the strongest character of anybody in the MCU, by far. Like, Tony, after, I don't know, we got a lot to talk about still, but like, he hasn't grown enough. He hasn't learned anything. Cap ever changing, ever growing, ever evolving to like be a part of this new world. I think there's an arc of that in there. Scarlett Johansson, we talked about Winter Soldier. She really has a good arc in this.
In Age of Ultron,
you know, people get on the Thor thing. I think it starts to feel cluttered because there is so many subplots, and I think the Thor one, because it
with him
doesn't,
with the fountain thing,
because it's kind of underdone and feels a little, it's like gets the least screen time, so it feels the most, so it gets maligned. But man, the Hulkbuster, that
was worth the price. Like I said earlier, price of admission alone. Watching the Hulkbuster.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, that was great.
That was a great fight. That was awesome.
Doctor Strange, though, I just think appeals to more people, and it's Avengers to me. Age of Ultron suffers from Avengers being so good and everyone being like, this is going to be it again, this is going to be all that stuff when that camera goes around and they're all standing there like what we felt and all that stuff, and it just didn't deliver on that. Doctor Strange, to me, it's Benedict Cumberbatch is amazing and he's great, and I love that they got him to actually, like a serious actor, to stand there and do this shit the whole time.
Tilda Swinton too. Got Tilda Swinton to do that shit.
He's probably like, what the hell's going on? But I'll say Doctor Strange doesn't deliver on its own movie, because the first 30 seconds Doctor Strange is amazing, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be awesome. I thought the same thing. I
was like, they are full on gonna do a kung fu movie. They're gonna use this magic premise and give us a legit kung fu movie, and they had the whole setup to do it. You know, the ex-student who becomes the rival master and comes back to your school, destroys your sign, steals your books. That's classic kung fu shit. Like, perfect. And it kind of faltered a little bit. It's like it had some of that in there, but it never really. I wanted to take that step forward. Now, I will say, I like Benedict Cumberbatch. Okay, I'm not as big on him as everybody else. He's fine. I like him. I like the twist on the villain thing in this one, where they like found, you know, it wasn't a big blue light shooting up into the sky. It wasn't an opposite version of the hero, you know, so many of them are. So I like that they had a variation on that. And it was good enough that I gave it a buy for just being another origin movie. You know what I mean? Because like at its core, that's all it can be.
It was
they're
Iron
trying
Man with
to tell their
mysticism,
story.
essentially.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Right down to the goatee. You know what I mean? And I think it's hard. There's so much going on. It's hard to get invested in Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange as a character for me. You know what I mean? You hate him, and then you're supposed to feel bad for him, and then even before you have a chance to really feel bad for him, he is already on to basically becoming Doctor Strange. He's already into like quirky overstudying and I'm doing things I'm not supposed to because I'm ahead of the curve and everything.
But
it's
I'm so funny and charming.
Right, I'm charming and funny. It's like
with my charming shark face.
You didn't give me exactly, and you didn't give me enough time to like get into that. You know what I mean? And so personally, I'll go first this time and put my cards on the table. I have to put Age of Ultron over Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and speaking as Doctor Strange, I mean, I loved it too. I actually am a big Cumberbatch fan. I love almost everything the man's done. I'm a huge Sherlock fan, so I do appreciate that. But yeah, I have to say, Age of Ultron, I think Spader's underrated as a villain. I think his
we didn't even
performance as
talk
Ultron,
about Spader. That's great. We didn't talk about the twins.
Everyone talks about.
We better wait because I think it's going to go to the next round.
Yeah.
So.
I'll just say I think everyone always talks about the crappy villains in Marvel movies. I disagree. Ultron was a great villain. So yes, Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
for me
I'm
as well.
right there with you for all the
3
same
for 3
reasons.
on
And we
Age of
get,
Ultron. Wow.
Sorry, Dr.
Am I
Strange.
correct? We get Vision in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Like
Paul
I said,
Bettany.
ooh, we got so many things.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an upset. I would consider that a large upset. Next up, number 14, Iron Man 2. So this is the third from the bottom. This is what I would consider the bottom. And they're up against number 3, Captain America: Civil War. Do we even have to have a conversation about this?
No.
Let's not talk about Cap Civil War. Got anything to say about Iron Man 2?
It felt like a rehash. It was. I mean,
really,
Mickey Rourke was great. Yeah. I loved all
with
the
his
stuff.
bird.
I loved bringing in Justin Hammer.
Sam Rockwell.
Now,
Sam Rockwell was great.
That's a double-edged sword for me because that's great and he's good, but now you have botched having Sam Rockwell in your universe as somebody really great.
Yeah.
Like think of him coming back as a
crazy.
Yeah. Right, think of him coming back as some crazy. He could have been some really great classic villain,
Yeah.
or somebody, and now he's kind of wasted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When he came back in a Marvel one-shot, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Civil War.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm trying to think about good things about Iron Man 2. Retroactively, they tied it to Spider-Man Homecoming, so do we give them credit for that?
Where is that?
The little kid, do you remember the expo at the end, big action sequence?
Yeah.
There's a little kid with an Iron Man mask who puts his hand up, and one of the drones is going to kill him. Iron Man comes down, shoots the drone, tells the kid, "Good shot," and then flies away. That kid is supposed to be Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
That's supposed to be Peter Parker.
That's a retcon. It's Tom.
Okay.
It's like that's because you never see the kid's face, so it's an easy thing. Kevin Feige was like, "We're gonna, say this.
Okay.
It's cute. It's not."
That's enough to save it. Civil War.
Yeah, sorry. Civil War it is, everybody. Sorry, Iron Man 2.
And we don't have to talk about Civil War. We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
All right, so coming in now, I thought this one was ranked shockingly high, and it might be because it's so recent, and that means less critic reviews overall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man: Homecoming coming in at number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4 overall ranked.
All right. Spoiler alert! I just watched this today.
Yeah, we haven't actually. I haven't even talked to Justin about Spider-Man: Homecoming, which is weird because that's almost all we talk about is comic book movies. Really strange.
We actually usually see them together, but this was one of the few ones we didn't get to see together and give each other hand jobs. But anyway.
And it's up against number 13, Thor. Original Thor. Original recipe Thor.
See, I find this one to be the hardest one so far. I would argue.
So?
Yeah, because...
Well, tell us what you thought about Spider-Man: Homecoming a little bit.
I liked it a lot. I really did. I enjoyed it. I thought Tom Holland was probably the most comic book accurate Spider-Man they've had so far.
I was going to say, I think the internet's going to need to know, would you say it's better than Spider-Man 1 and 2?
That's a tough call. I would say...
And granted, we're all giving you the benefit of the doubt. One watch, just watch it today. You got, it takes time to process these things.
But I mean, I think I liked it more on its face. But if I think I go back and watch 1 and 2, especially 1, I probably still, I'd say they're pretty close.
Okay.
I'd say they're close.
Okay.
I think that's probably fair.
I really like Spider-Man: Homecoming. I thought it was really good. I do think maybe it would edge out because I've watched the Sam Raimi ones recently. To me, not having been a big Donner Superman person, the Raimi Spider-Mans are like my Richard Donner Superman movies.
That makes sense.
And they feel that way. They have that kind of over-the-top comic book feel, and I will always love them. But I think if I had to break it down and be like, what do I think is a better movie, and talk about one where they solve the villain problem, I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is really solid.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I'm I believe that this is right where it needs to be. To me,
Number 4,
Spider-Man
it's up that
Homecoming
high.
4
Really?
You
That
could
high?
say
far and away
Okay.
the best Spider-Man movie that I've seen. The way I felt, and I thought the villain was maybe one of the best that we've seen in the Marvel universe the whole time. I will say on the other side, Thor is he's not my least favorite character because I like what he does, but his standalone movies are my least in the entire
I think that's about to
universe.
change. We're taping this before Ragnarok.
I know, and I'm
Yeah,
excited
Ragnarok's
because
gonna be
I want to
good.
be wrong. I think that looks
I don't think
awesome.
we've seen the best Thor movie.
And that's why I'm glad we
Absolutely,
did this. But yeah, I agree with you. But right now, for me, and I mean, Thor was great. Idris Elba. You know, you love who's Hannibal Lecter plays.
Anthony
want to say
Hopkins.
Al Pacino, but Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins, Odin.
Everybody's
which
so
was
good.
inspired casting.
Comic book's worst father, man. Like, he's so bad.
I'm gonna take a nap for like 1,000 years. I'll see you guys.
Also, I'm gonna pitch you against each other and show one way more favoritism, like constantly. But it's I
won't
actually
backfire.
to play a little devil's advocate, like we've been doing. I do like Thor. I think, unfortunately, it suffers from having a little heavy
origin
lifting
movie.
to do,
Yeah.
based on like having to like introduce you to this whole world and have its own and try to be its own thing and its own story, its own movie. Did give us one of the best. People say Loki's the best villain. I almost don't even call him a villain anymore, though.
He's an
He's more of an
anti-hero,
anti-hero.
anti-villain.
He's
Right,
Loki. He's
like-
Loki, though.
yeah,
you know
he's
what I
just
mean?
Loki.
That's what
He's Loki.
is,
He's
yeah.
playing all the sides.
Yeah.
So, I love the Destroyer armor. The bit with the Destroyer
Yeah,
armor is
that was a good bit.
Kenneth Branagh's directing should be noted, I think.
Yeah.
Like, just looks a beautiful looking movie.
And I think it deserves props for bringing magic to previously, we had Iron Man and Iron Man 2, a very realistic-ish universe.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you have this god who wields a magic hammer and summons lightning. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty impressive they were able to bring that in before we got all the weirdness of Guardians of the Galaxy and
Yeah, I
Doctor
agree.
Strange. I mean, without Thor, we wouldn't have had a Doctor Strange.
Yep.
So
Definitely,
I think that's
definitely.
important to note.
But it's definitely not getting out of this round, right? I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Actually, I might. I'll play the devil's. I'll play Thor. I'll go
Ooh,
Thor on
man.
Spider-Man.
Man, I'm gonna go
lose,
Spider-Man
but-
too. But no, I appreciate that. I
I'll
appreciate
play
that.
the devil's advocate on this one.
Spider-Man Homecoming it is, but yeah, with an honorable mention, Thor's not as bad as you remember. Give it another chance.
Yeah. and I like Spider-Man. I'm not kind of down that one. But.
All right, so coming in at ranked number 9, Captain America: The First Avenger, against number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Ooh.
Now I'll go first. I fucking love The First Avenger. Look at me, internet. The First Avenger is awesome. Now I'll give you the third act is weak, but the fact that they build that character, the way they build that character. Skinny Steve Rogers is the reason that you are in love with Chris Evans right now.
Yeah.
Like, that character does not work unless you believe that Skinny Steve Rogers is a hero. And he is, before he ever changes, and they sell that, and they make you believe it. And, like I remember watching, I was like, man, this is an incredible origin movie. And, like, he, more than anything, and I think we already talked about it, I think this is the most fleshed out character in the Marvel Universe. I think it's the best casting in the Marvel Universe, and I think he's had the strongest stories and arc. So, I mean, cards on the table, love this movie. Top 5 for me. Coming in at number 9 is like a dagger in my heart. I know the third act is shit, okay? From the montage to the ending, it's pretty weak, but if that ending doesn't make you cry, I don't care if he's Captain America and he could have landed that plane easily because he's Captain America. He knew what he had to do, and he saved a dance for his best girl. You guys talk for just a minute.
Yeah, it is. Captain America: First Avenger is fucking amazing. Unfortunately, it's going against what to me has a chance to be the winner of this entire thing. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is my favorite of all these movies in the entire Marvel Universe. It's so amazing the way it pays off in just one movie. It doesn't have, obviously that's the first Captain America movie, so they didn't have anything to pay off. But we love, and you're right. I mean, even in Civil War, they're paying off stuff from Skinny Steve Rogers, and it's so fucking amazing how much we love him. But just how much they improve on the first Guardians of the Galaxy and the way James Gunn does it. All the characters, and I mean, you want to talk about third act that puts you in tears. Yeah. I mean, Michael Rooker, and it's best performance of his entire career as far as I'm concerned in Guardians of the Galaxy
Fuck
Part
you, Walking
2.
Dead fans. This is probably, I would say this is the hardest one so far for me. I'd say First Avenger by a free throw.
All right, I'll throw it to you now. We know how you feel, and you're going Guardians.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy. Honestly, I feel like this.
I feel
Guardians
bad.
of the Galaxy. If it gets anything else, I think it has a chance to win, but this is Captain America: First Avenger. I know.
I feel like this
it.
is an unfair matchup. I
Yeah,
feel like
tough.
this should be.
And it's weird. It's 8 and 9.
It
That's
is.
their. I mean, they're
wow.
right in the. We're
But
right in the dead middle right now.
Which one
It's
was
gonna
8?
get harder. It's gonna get harder.
8 was Guardians.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, slight edge.
So you are the deal breaker this time.
Yeah.
And here's what's gonna sway me. I love them both. We all know the third act problems are much worse in First Avenger than they are in Guardians, and we already have 2 Captain America movies that have moved on to the next round.
Yeah, and that was what I was just about to say. I was like, I feel
so
bad if
I'm
that
gonna
moves
have
on.
to right, exactly. So I'm gonna go Guardians Volume 2.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was tight.
Wow.
That was our hardest one in round 1, I think.
Yeah.
Which I was sure Doctor Strange and Age of
And
Ultron.
yeah,
was
dear
gonna-
internet, you fucking suck if you hate the first Avenger. Let's just say
Right,
that.
you're just wrong. I mean, you're just wrong.
You're
I don't know
wrong.
what to tell
that
you.
movie's so good.
All right, so number 11 seed, Iron Man 3, against number 6, Avengers, the original.
I think this is an easy one.
This is a throwaway. Let me say just a couple things in defense of Iron Man 3, because like everyone else, I was pissed the first time I saw it, but I've gone back. Solid buddy cop play.
Yeah.
Directed by Shane Black between Don Cheadle and Tony. This is the movie we talked about Tony not having too much of an arc, but this is the one that gets the closest where we get to see that he can be a hero without the suit.
Right.
So you got to give him that.
That was cool. I like that.
I like all the cool suits at the end. That was a fun little thing for the end scene, and the Mandarin twist was interesting. I think where they messed up is they made Ben Kingsley's Mandarin too good. He was too interesting.
Yeah.
If you didn't like him, if kind of like leading up to the movie, everybody was kind of like, and they were rolling their eyes, and they're like, and they had done him up like a stereotype, and everybody kind of hated him.
Yeah.
And then in the twist when the movie
Yeah,
came,
good call.
you'd have been like, wow, that's so brilliant. Like if he'd have looked like Ming the Merciless.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
and you'd have
Like
been
he
a big-
actually does
right,
the comic.
right,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that was the thing. It was like you made the Mandarin too cool. You
Yeah.
made me want to
Yeah.
really like that character.
And Guy Pearce wasn't even a bad villain.
No,
And like I
it's-
said, what I'm
the
what-
extremist stuff is interesting. The whole thing, downside, Gwyneth Paltrow giving her powers at the end. Like, that's
that
dumb.
was
That's real
dumb.
dumb.
Keep her to the side. It's
Well,
just
this is one of those things like, oh, I get it. She was like, well, this year I want to do something in this one. Fine, whatever. But it's
She
not.
wore the suit earlier in the movie.
Right.
That was
she
cool
got-
enough.
It was just rescuing her.
I wish they would do rescue. I wish they would just go make her rescue, but I guess they don't really do
They
that.
don't care about
no,
that.
that's too much.
I'll say it right now. We'll get Spider Gwen before we ever get rescued. So yeah, this one's kind of a gimme, and we'll get to talk.
I think
about
it's only a
Avengers
gimme.
later.
I don't think Iron Man
There are
3 is
definitely
unfairly maligned.
There's things in this first round that Iron Man 3 could have beat.
Oh yeah.
There's
Oh,
movies
yeah.
in this first round that Iron Man.
but I
3
think
could have beat.
Avengers is so
Not
high.
Avengers.
The fact that it's number 6 is
Number
kinda,
6 seems weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. All right, I'm not asking any more questions. Avengers is going on. So this is the last match of the first round. The number 2 seed, number 2, original Guardians of the Galaxy.
That was number 2.
That was number
far
2.
up. Okay, all right.
Original
Fair enough.
Guardians against number 15, 2008's Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Everybody forgets about
Yeah,
that.
it's the
guy.
forgotten-
That
movie.
that one, Spider-Man: Homecoming, are now kind of the outliers, where
Yeah.
they're sort of their own thing, but they also
they don't have a sequel
They don't have
yet.
a sequel yet. Yeah. Although news coming out just today saying 2 of the 6 writers from Spider-Man: Homecoming are signed on for the sequel.
That's cool.
That's good. Well, I'll go first. I actually like Norton's Incredible Hulk. I liked it a lot. I was a little disappointed here he wasn't coming back. Not that Ruffalo hasn't been great, but
No, Ruffalo has been great. That's one of those casting recasts.
it was
that I
a
think
great
everybody-
thing.
Same thing with Cheadle. It's like man, Terrence Howard's got to be kicking himself.
Yeah,
right?
right. Just take the less money, man. What the hell's wrong with you? But I thought bringing in Tim Roth as Blonsky and the Abomination was a good touch. I thought,
and with the return of William Hurt
William
in
Hurt,
Civil War,
that was
it makes me
solid.
so excited to think that means Abomination is still lurking around in this
Yeah,
universe.
yeah.
So he's somewhere. He's in that prison in
bringing
this
in
ocean or
Tony at
something.
the end and kind of flirting with that whole.
And that was a
Avengers
last
thing.
minute thing they did
Yeah.
after the success of Iron Man. They reshot a whole, and that's really great.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think there's really cool stuff in this. You know, the way, like, all the stuff about Ruffalo being able to control being the Hulk is all set up in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, you have to.
I love the idea. I mean, I'm sorry, but like one of the coolest friggin' moments that I remember from a lot of these superhero movies is when he's like, you know, he's like any last words, he's like Hulk smash.
Yeah.
That was great. And you got friggin' what's his face's voice for it too. Exactly.
Ferrigno, yeah.
Lou Ferrigno. So yeah, I think it's unfairly
And
blind,
teases,
even though I
there were
think
some
we know
great
what's going to win
teases
this.
to other villains in this one too. They had they teased the leader and they teased Doc Samson.
Yeah, neither of which we're going to get any.
No, definitely not going to get any payoff on any of that. What about you? Got anything to say about?
Yeah,
Hulk,
I
Incredible
mean,
Hulk?
everything you guys said about the Hulk is right, but Ruffalo's Hulk now, so we put this movie behind us and let the Guardians of the Galaxy move on.
Just move on easily.
We know.
All right. Well, that's round one, guys. How do we feel about it?
Feels
Feeling
good.
good?
Let's
take a quick break and get new beers.
All right.
All right, so it's time for the Hateful Eight. We're going to start off with a barn burner right out of the gate. The first match, number 1 seed Iron Man against number 7 Captain America the Winter Soldier. And I mean, you're going to get to these hard ones eventually.
But for the first one...
for this to be for me to already be doing this.
The Elite / Hateful Eight.
Right, yeah, the whatever, I don't know, Sports 8.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first. Man, this is a tough one because Iron Man set this whole universe in motion, and it was great. And it had a great villain. Say what you want, Jeff Bridges, great villain.
Jeff Bridges is great. I think
Ironmonger.
I think the only complaint is that it's only in retrospect that people have a complaint about that. It's because now the guy who becomes basically a mirror image of the hero is like a cliche. It's the villain in so many Marvel movies now as like just an off-brand version of the hero.
But it was
Yellow
the first
Jacket
one.
Was that right? Exactly. It wasn't a trope.
And it was
yet.
a good villain. And it's Jeff Bridges, for guys.
And
it's
Jeff
the
Bridges,
dude, man.
And I'll tell you what, as a baldy beardy, man, he fucking slayed that look. Like, I'll never live up to how great. I'll tell you what, only guy to ever look badass on a Segway. He rolls up on a Segway with like a cigar and just like rolls up and then steps off of it. I was like, you just. I've never seen somebody look cool on a Segway before.
Usually it's mall cops, but Jeff Bridges can make everything fucking look cool. He made White Russians look cool.
Yeah.
So but it's a tough one because Cap, like we gushed over Cap Winter Soldier, but God, I gotta go with Winter Soldier. It's a tough call. If I keep talking myself, I'm just gonna talk round in circles. So
what about you,
that's
Matt?
my vote.
How do you feel about these ones?
Man, Winter Soldier. It's like the born identity in the Marvel universe, and it's a good thing. You get the payoff of a death of a best friend is now the villain.
Right, we haven't even talked too much. It kind of
Bucky.
I mean, like the introduction of now for those of us in the know, we knew that reveal, but I thought it was done really well. I'll tell you what I fucking love in the Winter Soldier, Armin Zola. When they do that with the robot and the little and the camera.
Oh my God, that was brilliant.
Such an interesting.
They touched on it in the first Avenger, but they really brought it there.
Such a cool way to like bring that weird thing from the comics into this much more realistic world, but still like give you a taste of what.
And bring in Operation Paperclip, which was actually a real thing.
Right?
Yeah,
and not to mention, like, you gotta give. This is the Russo brothers' first outing, like coming to a big movie like this. So just the fact that it's so good. But again, Jon Favreau.
Oh yeah,
out of nowhere, people like. I mean, people like Jon Favreau and everything. He was doing fine, but like nobody expected him to blow up like this. And Downey with the it's a really rough one, man.
I gotta say, I'm right there on the edge. I'm right there on the edge, but Segway with the cigar wins the day for me, man. and I was ready to vote for Captain America. You reminded me of that scene. Right there. I gotta go with Iron Man, and also the expectations I had.
Oh, it's on you again.
I never walked into a movie in my life and thought and been more meh about what was about to begin, and had I been ever 180'd in my life to becoming what I was so meh about when I walked into Iron Man, to now we're doing this whole thing about some of the best movies we've seen as grown-ups. Yeah. So that to me, and of course,
and you know what? Yeah, you make a good point, because especially since Iron Man was not really an A-list villain or an A-list hero. You had the SpiderMan and all that stuff.
At this time, they were just doing that with him. Like, they had just done the Avengers Disassembled thing, and they were getting into Civil War, and this was like kind of New Avengers, and then
he wasn't exactly a household name,
but they were they were building it, but it wasn't. It's because of the movie that they were doing that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, a split decision, and actually, honestly, I don't care. I don't care if Iron Man wins. I don't have a problem with
either one of these could win this thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
If these had a different path, either one of them could have won. But we'd have just been having this conversation.
You had to look at Metacritic.
Damn that Metacritic! Metacritic didn't sway me; it just swayed the rankings. Man, that is really, really difficult.
And it's just
I think for being an originator, I gotta go Iron Man.
That's fair.
I think I've got to go Iron Man. So next one, this was Avengers Age of Ultron was number 12, squeaked by in round 1.
I wouldn't even say squeaked by.
Not squeaked by amongst us, but in the minds of the people watching, probably squeaked
Fuck
by.
those people.
Got real lucky with that. That's right. You hear that? That's what Justin
especially
thinks of you guys.
One of you named
That's
Randall.
right.
Fuck
Oh,
you,
especially
essentially.
You can
Randall.
find me on Twitter. No, you can't.
And going up against the number 3, Captain America: Civil War.
That's not even fair.
Right, exactly. It's
Why
kind
didn't we
of,
get these
Last.
swapped?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
either way, we'd be having the same conversation,
Yeah,
though. We
that's
can't.
true.
We're gonna get to it eventually. We got to do the hard. We got to do the work.
Civil War, easy. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I loved
We
Age
gushed
of Ultron.
on Age of Ultron, but now it's like you cannot deny.
Again, Spader,
what
great
Civil
villain.
War
Like you
is.
said, you brought up the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
We did. Yeah, we did. We didn't talk about. I think
The Hawkeye
again,
family
Quicksilver's
stuff
fine.
was good.
Yeah, Hawkeye family stuff. The Hawkeye speech to Scarlet Witch was a great
Good,
moment.
yeah.
And yeah, I do think James Spader, and I think that speaks to something that is a problem with Marvel villains. People say Marvel has weak villains. It's more the movie structure doesn't allow time for the villains, because the villain has to be created and origined, tell us his plan, execute his plan, and be defeated all in the same span of the movie. Whereas the heroes have multiple movies to play out there. You know what I mean? So Spader was really great. And, you know, introduction of Claw, which we're going to get in Black Panther. I can't wait for that and stuff. So, man, yeah.
But you know what? Even just throwing, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy who played Zemo in Civil War, fantastic performance,
really good too.
So, I mean...
Yeah, I think I'm pretty handily giving this one to Civil War.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's an Avengers movie. It's a better Avengers movie.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fantastic.
All right. Number 4, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Up against Guardians Volume 2. So this is the battle of 2017.
Yeah.
2 of the best 8 movies of this franchise in our minds came out this year.
Wow.
And we're not even all the way through this year because we got
And I didn't vote for either one of these.
Oh, yeah, but you kind of played spoiler
I
on
did,
Spider-Man
yeah,
Homecoming.
I
You
did.
could have easily voted for Spider-Man.
I could have, yeah, that's true. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, let's face it. I was barely gonna give it to First Avenger anyway. Guardians wins this outright for me. I mean, I think it's like Matt pointed out. It had probably. I mean, the fact that Yondu had the most frigging like emotional scene in this movie was totally unexpected to me. And Kurt Russell's ego was fantastic. Great villain. Yeah, Guardians 2, easy.
Yeah, I think that stuff with Yondu hits really hard. I would have liked to have seen it set up just a little bit better.
If we weren't dads, it wouldn't hit as hard.
Well, that's true. And I would have liked to have seen that set up a little bit better in the first movie.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
It wasn't. It's kind of. It felt like retroactively they were like, let's give. I mean, they have the line at the end of the first movie, but but overall that hits really good, and I mean, Kurt Russell's so good. And like I said, it's a road to nowhere, but what a fun ride. And that's great, because we talk about how some of these movies just feel like a placeholder to get you to the next movie, whereas this just stands on its own. And I really enjoy Spider-Man: Homecoming. I really did.
I did too.
I think Tom Holland is great. I think we
He's
didn't
good for
talk
the
nearly
universe.
enough about Michael Keaton. He killed it as a very relatable Trump voter of a villain. He was great.
Oh yeah, he was so good.
I like the little smatterings of other, the
Matt
Shocker
Gargan.
and the Matt Gargan stuff was good, and they didn't overplay their hand. Like, they didn't have to do Amazing Spider-Man 2 where it's like, let's walk by a wall of different outfits so you can see all the villains that are coming.
I really liked one of the best cameos I liked was the principal.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the grandson, or I'm assuming grandson of one of the
Howling Commandos. Yeah, that's another one of those little tie-ins, and it's the
really
same actor playing it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, right. And I thought that was really solid. The post-credit scene, I'm sorry, but Captain America doing the PSAs was fucking hysterical.
That's really good.
At the end, where he's like, patience, he's like, how many of these we got left? It's fantastic. I mean, Chris Evans, that was a great cameo. I loved it. But yeah, Guardians 2, I think
What about you?
Yeah, my cards are on the table. I will say, Spider-Man: Homecoming. You know, maybe because I'm one of those guys who forgets everything, so there's no freshness, so that's why they're like
I've seen this movie?
high on them. But yeah, and I mean Martin Starr, because this is about to go. So Martin Starr was so good. The way they subvert some of the characters and who you think that certain characters would be, and then I don't want to spoil anything, but Guardians, like I said, that's to me is one of my favorites. So
I have to agree with you guys. I think that Spider-Man: Homecoming is a really strong movie. Like I said, it definitely earned its place making it this far. But yeah, gotta give it to Guardians too.
Man, I appreciate it wasn't an origin movie.
That
was really good.
Ooh. People were like, "Oh, they didn't even mention Uncle Ben at all." It's like, hey, maybe Aunt May and Peter don't feel like talking about their dead relative every day. Like, have you ever fucking experienced a tragedy? I don't know about you, but I don't sit around and chit chat about it every single fucking day. Like,
hey, DC, keep in mind that.
Right. All right. So last match of this round, the number 6 seed Avengers, original recipe Avengers, going up against number 2 Guardians of the Galaxy.
Touched on it with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the key with that one was people didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I mean, we had a movie about a friggin' talking raccoon and a talking tree that was voiced by Vin Diesel that only said, "I am Groot." People were really, I think they were surprised. And there was a lot of emotion, a lot of great emotion, a lot of great stuff. But like you said, basic movie. Avengers set the stage so much that DC said, hey, that made $1 billion. Let's make a Justice League movie. And not understanding the time and care that Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau and all those people put into this universe before they even got started. And I'm sorry, that post-credit scene, that first one we saw, it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, it's true.
To court death, and then I look over at my wife, and she's like, "Who the fuck was that?"
Yeah. Hellboy?
Meanwhile, now all those years later, everyone's looking at Thanos and Guardians of the Galaxy, and like, "Oh yeah, I know who that guy is."
Yeah.
But I mean, it set the stage. It was perfect. Well, not perfect, but it was nigh perfect.
Yeah,
so.
because much like we talked about with Iron Man,
it could have failed
changed
miserably.
The game again.
It could have
you know what I
failed
mean?
horribly.
Iron Man did a thing, and then Avengers did another equally important.
So yeah,
and
Avengers easily. Yeah.
So, what about you?
I got
any arguments?
I've got nothing to add. I mean, you guys took everything I was going to say. Never have we seen a payoff in cinema like we do in Avengers of movies building up to something like that. We've never seen it before, and like you said, everyone's copying it. That's all I have to say. Avengers goes through Guardians of the Galaxy.
Great movie.
So
no,
good.
again,
I don't think any of us are arguing. We all like the reason I'm hitting on the negatives is because I got to give you some reasons why I'm going to put Avengers over here. Overall, I like Guardians too.
Yeah.
Of course I do. It's great.
Yeah.
Avengers. All right, we're down to the fanned 4-stick.
Fanned 4-stick 4? Wait.
With the 4 in the middle of the word.
Oh, I got you.
No, none of those get to be in this. They're not part of the MCU yet. Wink.
Come on, Fox.
Come on. Oh, no, is that Fox or Sony? It's Fox.
Yeah,
Fox.
you screwed up Doctor Doom enough. Give it to Marvel.
You can keep the X-Men on life support with your god-awful movies, but give us Fantastic Four. All right, number 1 seed, Iron Man, up against the number 3, Captain America: Civil War. Wow, right? I mean, who wants to start? Somebody throw their body on the fire here.
I'll just go ahead and say the things that we just said about the Avengers. They almost pay off in a better way in Civil War because we have a wider cast and we get to pick sides. They're going against each other. To me, it's almost a perfect superhero movie.
How do you solve a Marvel's weak villain problem? You make one of their well-rounded heroes the villain.
Exactly.
But which one? But which one?
Pick your side.
Yeah.
Who's your villain?
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you
agree with?
Who's fighting
I will say the one downside for me in Civil War is it seems like it should be flipped. Maybe that's on purpose, but it seems like they should be on opposite sides as far as the Cap is.
Right. I mean, I think they do their best to kind of explain that. It's like...
Well, if you think about Cap...
It's funny, like, Tony's finally trying to take responsibility by blaming everyone else. Like, hey, remember how I created most of the villains?
Yeah.
We should really police we should be policed. Like, no, you should be policed.
I mean, speaking as, I think it actually makes sense because if you think about it, in Winter Soldier, Cap was governed by S.H.I.E.L.D., which was corrupt. So he's not, I can't be governed because I don't know what
I like too,
exactly.
They set it up in Winter Soldier, and even in that, he says it's like, when he sees something, it's not about country, it's about what's right and wrong.
Right.
Like, he's Captain America, he fights for the ideals of America.
Right.
It's not necessarily agreeing with America 100% of the time.
Well right, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and here's what sells me on Civil War. They introduce the Black Panther in a way that is germane to the plot, that doesn't feel forced. That I would say you could pluck out, like if you plucked out the scene where Tony goes to Queens and gets Spider-Man and the airport, you would still have a structurally sound Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. Like, it's great to see Spider-Man, and that's a really amazing set piece. That action sequence is jaw-dropping. Every time I watch it, it blows my mind. And the one earlier in the where
stairwell?
that starts it starts with the stairwell and then goes into the chase, and then you have the fight on the rooftop with Black Panther, and then goes into the car chase. And you can't forget the one at the beginning where they take down Crossbones. Yeah. We didn't even talk about Crossbones. We were talking about Captain America: Winter Soldier.
He was great in that.
Frank Grillo is a great underrated. I think gone too soon is what I would say about Frank Grillo. I would have liked to have seen him come back as like a henchman in for somebody later, a secondary villain. Yeah, Red Skull. Where is Red Skull?
Point is, Civil War wins this one, I think.
I think Civil War gets it. I have a hard time thinking of any way it can. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah.
All right, so this is I think this is a cool round here because we have two lower seeds. We have number 8 versus number 6. Yeah. All right, number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, against number 6, Avengers, 2012 Avengers. I'm throwing it up there, guys.
I'll go first.
The water's warm. The water's warm.
I was going to say Guardians 2, I think we touched on a lot of it, but it's not earth-shattering, and I would say Avengers was. I think Avengers was one of those movies that was a big risk, could have fell apart really hard, could have had bad pacing. You're putting all these new characters, all these characters who have all not been separate, now together, and you killed it. I mean, I'm sorry. The fact that they gave you so much fan service, they gave you a friggin' Hulk versus Thor fight, which was what, I mean, as soon as that started happening, I'm like, yes, thank you. But, I mean, yeah, Avengers, I think, wins this one, hands down.
When Matt put it out on Front Street right away, that this is like top of the heap for him.
Yeah, it really is too. But I didn't anticipate this moment. And I mean, just on those, like you say, those moments. And it's not even just as Thor and Captain America fighting. It's the you throw Loki in the mix. It's everything. Agent Philip, what's his name? Philip.
Coulson's
Coulson dies. Such
and
an
the way
emotional
that
beat.
I like not only the way that cements the team, but the way you find out that Fury actually manipulated them. That's a great little beat that I think almost gets lost there. Like, yes, his death is an emotional moment, but also you got to know Fury's doing his Nick Fury thing there too.
And Sam Jackson is Nick Fury.
But I want to play a little devil's advocate, just real quick.
Oh, that's fine.
Guardians Volume 2. Really strong, solid character growth for almost every major cast member.
I would say yes.
You know, obviously Peter Quill. I already mentioned earlier. I think the Gamora Nebula stuff is really good. I'm not a guy who wells up in movies, and I got choked up. I didn't like the Yondu thing. Like flat out got me, but I got a little knot in my throat when Gamora and Nebula were talking too. You know, when she's giving her that whole beat about, every time you won, for you it was just about winning, but for me it was, I got tortured every single time, and it just, I mean, and then I think the stuff with I think the third act hurts it, unfortunately. I do think there's some really great emotional beats there in that last, and then like, the Yondu moment where he sacrifices himself, and then the funeral, I think, takes it to the next level.
Yeah. When they're playing the Cat Stevens song, man, that's like Field of Dreams level of ripping your guts out.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So
the Zune joke was good too.
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah. So if I had to say, I would probably, I think I might throw my weight behind Volume 2. And so now I'm going to leave it to Matt to make the final call. See how I interrupted him before he could make his decision?
That's good.
To leave it to me. Now it's even harder.
You're right, and I'll say Guardians of the Galaxy. I sat down. I watched this movie again like 3 days ago, and I thought, this is my favorite Marvel movie. It wins, and it is the most emotional. It has the most emotional moment for me in that Yondu scene, but that's not part of the climax. And I say, like you said, that scene where Kurt Russell and Quill are fighting each other, and they're just kind of like flying around, and
blue
it's a
light in the sky and explosions.
The Pac-Man gag was,
and we haven't mentioned, and I will say, I think it's a valid criticism that the movie might be a little overly jokey.
Drax was a little
like
jokey.
Drax goes, and I've noticed a big fan of Honest Trailers and Screen Junkies. What they do is great. If you watch the Honest Trailer for Guardians and they show how much they're laughing at their own jokes in that, there's a lot of like them thinking they're funny, and like the taser face thing goes on. It almost suffers from that. I hate to even invoke the name, but Ghostbusters 2016 of like, I think my actors are so funny, I'm just going to point the camera at them and we're just going to do a ton of takes. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's done better than that.
Yeah, there's no...
But I do think it, like, so if I had to just, you know, again, just to balance the scale a little bit, I will say that's a negative I can throw on the pyre.
Yeah.
Even though you voted for it.
I voted for it, and I stick by my vote. I stand by my
vote. Just to make Matt uncomfortable.
There's negative things I can say about Avengers, too. Do we need to get into them? I don't know, you know, but I just think that...
There's nothing negative you can say. I'm just...
But yeah, those same beats, those same comedic beats, and those awesome action beats are there during that final fight in Avengers, and it's better done. And I mean, just that Captain America when he says Hulk smash, you know, those moments.
Puny God.
Puny God. When he just
whips Loki around.
What a great moment.
Puny God. That could the actual words Puny God could win this tournament by themselves. I don't know. I mean, it's a rough one.
Absolutely.
So you're going Avengers?
Avengers.
Wow.
I can't believe it. Honestly,
the guy who said Volume 2 was going to win the whole thing.
I know, and I was ready.
All right, we've made it. We're down to our final match. It's been a lot of fun. This is exactly what I wanted to do with my 50th episode of DVD Bulgaria.
This is good.
And I should take this time to thank Justin for being here, and being a great guest all the times you've been here.
Thank you.
And Matt, my faithful co-host,
Yeah.
who was doing half the work. For a while, it was like 3/4 of the work.
You got wise.
You got wise. You're like, you maybe want to do anything?
Quiet, you.
I host the show. I host. I'm the brains. So our final bout. Captain America Civil War, the number 3 seed, going up against the Avengers, the number 6 seed. I can't believe that none of the number 1 and number 2 didn't make it in.
What was number 2?
Number 2 was Guardians, original Guardians.
And
original Iron Man had a real chance.
Yeah,
I don't
had
know
a
if original
shot.
Guardians ever had a chance to win the whole thing.
No.
But I think original Iron Man did.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have to knock Civil War for something, the Sharon Carter subplot is a little forced into that one. I get it. It's because it's to remind us that this is a Captain America movie, and we're trying to also carry his plot along. But like Matt said, it does feel a little like Avengers 2.5.
I would have preferred to see more Sharon Carter in terms of like her helping them. I feel like she was underutilized. I mean,
but when you got so many characters,
I know.
She could have had something to do with the airport, I guess. Maybe
she should have, because frankly, you're fighting 2 Iron Men, the Vision. I mean, the only
Cap's
team was underwhelmed, except for, I guess, Scarlet Witch, and then Ant-Man turned into Giant Man.
Right, Ant-Man, like they had that card to play, which I think was, and man, is that moment great.
But I mean, it is.
It's
Giant Man,
good.
I mean, and I'm sorry, but like, and then you go back to Avengers. I mean, you got.
I was gonna say we're gonna need to talk about Avengers.
Yeah.
You got Loki with his plans. You got Hawkeye being the villain, kind of giving a nod to the comics that he was a villain to start with.
Yeah.
You've got the meeting between Cap and Iron Man for the first time. You've got the Iron Man Thor. You got the fight team up moment, which is great.
You know who I want to throw out who introed in Avengers and actually had something to do? Maria Hill. Colby Smulders is Maria Hill.
Colby Smulders.
I always was hoping that there would, they did eventually have Sam Jackson go underground, and actually he's been underground since we haven't seen him since Age of Ultron, right?
No.
I think we haven't. Okay,
no.
So I was always kind of hoping to get Maria Hill as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and kind of like play with that, because that's something from the comics a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Colby Smulders is really good in that role.
Yeah.
She has like a great little bit where she saves them in Winter Soldier. So shout out to Colby Smulders, and she gets her intro in that. Man, Avengers had a similar effect on me that the first Raimi SpiderMan had, where like it really was like a dream come true.
Yeah,
I never thought I would get to see something like that on screen, brought to that well.
I imagine it's probably similar to how people watch the original Dawn of Superman. It's like, you could believe
right.
a man can fly, type of thing.
When they do, there's that one stretch. It's a one shot. Obviously, a lot of CGI. It's not really a one shot, but they go from, you got Cap and Black Widow and Hawkeye fighting on the ground, or no, Cap and Black Widow on the ground. They fly up with Iron Man up the building. They see Hawkeye shooting, and then it pans over, and then Iron Man does the thing where he drops down and they shoots the laser and ricochets off the shield.
Off the shield, yeah.
Man,
and I'm sorry, but Cleveland has never looked that nice.
I mean, I remember that's one of those movies, and we've done it a couple times, but that was one where like we went and had lunch after we saw it, and our wives had to sit there like, While we were just like, oh my god, and remember this part, and and what about Thanos?
Although
at the
my
end?
wife was equally gushing about Tom Hiddleston.
That's
She's got
true,
like the
you're-
biggest crush on that guy ever.
She likes all the nerd crush guys. 'Cause
Yeah,
she likes Benedict too. Right?
Yeah, she likes Benedict too. So she's really hoping for the whole Doctor Strange Loki fight. She's just gonna orgasm in the theater. Pretty much. Yeah.
My wife is like John Goodman in Kong Skull Island. You say so? She has a type, I guess. Is what I'm trying to think.
Sorry, Matt, you need to say
Yeah,
something.
Matt needs to talk a little.
Okay, what I'll say is, man, you guys really just everything in my mind. You guys are nailing it, and it's just I will.
You got to remember, me and Justin have been talking about these movies to each other for like literally since before Iron Man came out.
Yeah.
And we've been speculating and just spitballing and talking, and just so like it feels very natural. But you're my bunker buddy. You're the man. You're my cohort. You're the one who brings me. You bring my mind to a different place.
Yeah,
you
right.
Have a different,
Outside.
I bring Justin in because I know what effects he has. You are like a wild card. You bring different things.
Avengers. Oh, like you said, man, it realized a childhood dream of like seeing these people, and you go to see these movies and you're like, that was good or that was really good, and then like to see them all together and all the stuff that they did. I will say for me, ever since I was a kid, and I'm gonna bring X-Men in for a second, was the most interesting stuff to me is not the outside forces of coming from space or coming from these bad guys from outer space. It's when the people on planet Earth are doing horrible things. The Genosha stuff on X-Men and those things where we say, how do we deal with this as a culture? And I'll say for me, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out, that's why Civil War gets the edge, because these movies are very similar in we're bringing all these people. Hey, we've got a few more in Civil War that you've now seen Ant-Man. You've now seen some more of these
just
characters.
much like they bring a team together in Avengers, we almost bring two teams
Exactly.
together in Civil War.
Exactly
and
right.
we're dealing with a team breaking apart and a team coming together. We have all different alliances. The stuff with Black Widow. Where's she gonna land on it? Where's what's Black Panther? He's kind of a wild card because he's on Tony's side, but he's really out for his own ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has
Absolutely
different.
right.
So I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. But that's what I was just gonna lay it out that for me is what gives Civil War the edges, because everything you said was great. I mean, to put Black Panther in there and not feel crowded in a movie that has twice as many superheroes as Avengers, and it still feels you're like, that was awesome, and then the whole.
But you cannot deny the work that the Avengers did for that. Like, you couldn't have all those heroes in Civil War and not have to explain them without Avengers and without Age of Ultron and stuff. So it's like, can one you get into that thing like we were talking about with Iron Man, like it set the stage. Can it? Like, is that enough to push it over the edge? Like, because one can't exist without the other, but then on the flip side of that, we learn as we go. The movies get better, and I do think the Russos took, we saw it in Winter Soldier, but then again, they get to step up their game, and I think, I've told these guys, I think Captain America Civil War has jumped into one of the best sci-fi fantasy trilogies of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right up there with Indiana Jones, with Star Wars, with Die Hard's action, not sci-fi, but still.
Action,
just trilogies, period. Yeah. Like, if you're talking 3 movies that tell a story, I think Cap's up there. What about you, Justin? I'll take the heat on this one, and I'll be the final vote. So
wait, Matt was Civil War?
Matt is firmly on Civil War. I'm marking it down. I didn't actually mark anything.
I might make this easy for you. As much as I love Avengers, and man, that Thanos tease at the end got me squealing like a little girl. I mean,
what about Puny God though?
Puny God was great. Puny God was great. Hulk cheap-shotting Thor, was great.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that Hulk couldn't lift his hammer, thank God they didn't screw that up.
Yeah,
that was good.
Something we didn't talk about, but just a great moment. What about when Cap budges the hammer in Age of Ultron? Isn't that so great? I think the worried look on Thor's face is the best thing.
Thor shits his pants. That was great. That was a great moment.
Sorry, tangent there.
Yeah. And it's just Joss Whedon. I mean, he's so good at that. But I mean, I think Matt summed up a great point where he said, they introduced even more characters into Civil War, an already cluttered thing, and it was concentrated on Captain America, and it I know it's Avengers 2.0 or 3.0, I guess, but it never strayed from being a Cap movie. It still was very much a Captain America movie.
I agree that like the core of the story is about Captain America and his struggle and I'll tell you what, not to gush about Civil War too much, but the scene right before they're on their way to last, and he's standing there with Bucky, and Bucky's like, kind of like doesn't understand why he would do all this for him. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't, and he's just like, you know, and that moment between those two guys, like, you're all I have in the whole world.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only thing that I have
for my old life.
For my old life. And I mean, like, that, and that's a bond, and like,
especially
you were used,
Peggy dies at the beginning of the movie.
Right,
so
and like the whole idea
thing.
that like you were used and you were wrong, and I'm here, like, you know, you need people here for you. You like, you shouldn't be forgotten. You're a victim too.
Yeah.
In a way, like, yes, you did horrible things, but you were in your own way a victim, and I am Captain America, the ultimate victim's advocate.
Yeah.
Like, that's my deal. Like, that's what
I
do.
And it's just, I mean, the idea that he was keeping it from Tony, and he's like, look, I did it because I was protecting you, but maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. Yeah. He owns his fucked ups, and that's the kind of guy Cap is.
And it's like, I love the Avengers, and Avengers is fun, and it's big, and it's new, and
they
it's
got
like,
great Cap moments there. You know,
and they got
like,
great stuff.
The last time I saw a guy speaking in Berlin, we had a disagreement. Great moment.
Man, that's so good.
Or when he's
there's only one guy.
There's only one God, ma'am, and he doesn't look anything like that. I'm like, great freaking Cap moment.
That's a good Cap moment. And I think he hit somebody with a sun in Avengers too, doesn't he? Sun?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did.
Oh man.
Sun. But
still, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you guys because
Civil War,
Civil War has that great bombastic feel, like a big summer movie, with
like the Avengers
with the airport
did,
fight.
But
it also
thing.
has that deeper story. It's got more to it. It's got more meat on the bone.
Yeah.
So I think we just decided, guys.
Civil War,
#1, top of the heap. DVD Bunker approved best Marvel Cinematic Universe film is Captain America: Civil War.
Right, I like
The
it.
number 3 scene.
I
I feel pretty good about it. I do.
Yeah.
I feel like we talked it out. I feel like, bare minimum, if somebody watches this and disagrees, they're at least going to understand why we got where we got to.
Yeah, I feel like
based on our personal preferences.
And if you disagree
and
with
we're just right. Yeah,
fuck
exactly. We're right and they're wrong, but that's okay. We'll live with that. It's fine.
You first Avenger hating fuckers.
You bastards. So, definitely comment on this one. Give us your rankings. Hit me, leave a like. Hit us up on Twitter also, at Hercules.
At the Drunksman.
#DVD Bunker. No Twitter for this guy. But you can talk to me and tell me that this guy's a douche, or you think his beard needs a trim, or whatever.
Wait a minute, what?
Anyway. But definitely leave a comment below. Like the video. Subscribe to the TUFF channel. We don't only talk about comics here. We hit all of pop culture. Fan Friction, a lot of fun. We argue about movies over there. Odd Shape Panel's a great discussion show. BFF's kind of a little review show, but from a different angle than what we do over here. And always check out DVD Bunker. We're putting out new stuff all the time, and boy, we're having a good time doing it. Thanks to all our friends. Justin for his fourth appearance. It's too few. He should make this a 3-man show.
Yeah.
Hey, I need to get away from my family.
Hey!
Fuck families.
Hey! And definitely, Jeannine for our original DVD Bunker logo. Austin, who always helps us out with the banners. Ron for the music. And everybody who's watching, thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Great 50th episode, guys.